Every little girl grows up dreaming about her happy ever after, but most of us don't have fairy tale scriptwriters making sure we get it. That's where the Happy Ever After show comes in. If you have been waiting for a fairy godmother to wave her magic wand and release your frustrations, create the prosperity you want, and live a life you love, then listen closely. It's time to learn how to make your own wishes come true with your host, Cassie Parks.
Hello and welcome to the Happy Ever After show. I'm your host, Cassie Parks, and I'm excited that you're here. I love talking to you about creating a business that you love, and I love talking about money manifesting, money mindset, all things really that constitute a really good relationship with money and drawing more of it into your life. So I'm excited to be doing this season called Manifest 10,000. I know you're listening because you want to welcome more money into your life without struggle so that you can build your business quicker and easier. I'm excited about that. And today we're going to talk about the evolution of Manifest 10K. And I talked a little bit about this when I talked about the sort of first Manifest 10,000 episode, when I, when in the first episode of this portion. But I want to go in, like, this is a business podcast. This is all about having the business that is your happy ever after. And so I want to give you the behind the scenes look of sort of the evolution of this course and what it's meant in my business and how it came to fruition and just all the steps along the way so that you can see that in your own business. You can maybe see where you need to stick something out a little longer, or maybe you need to take a break. You can see where you can follow your intuition. I just want to show you the whole things because this course is this has built my coaching practice. And I, over the next year, will continue to build, my success, my platform, the way, the way I've seen in the world is not the right term, but how many people know about me, my notoriety, like the expand and the reach that I get to have is really all comes back to this course. And so I think it's important to talk about because, I always wondered, like, how do you pick the right thing? And I didn't know how to pick the right thing. So we're going to talk all about that today because I want to give you the backstage pass. That's the whole point of this podcast. And I think it's super important to talk about Manifest 10,000 and Manifest 10K and the things that I teach in the course, the concepts, because they will help you make more money in your business quicker and easier. Because if you're not making money, your business is a hobby. And so that's important. And I also think it's important to get the backstage pass and to be able to see sort of the evolution of this course and why did I do this and why did I do that? Because that's how we learn. I feel like that's how we learn. So I want to give you that opportunity. So I hope that you'll enjoy this episode. Let me know if you liked the backstage pass, because if that's something that's helpful to you, I like to know that. So I can do it more often. So, but before we get to that, I'm really excited. I spent about at least 6 hours this week baking cookies. It's the holidays, it's, all of that fun stuff. And I have a party mostly every year. And it's just exciting. And I just realized, Wednesdays are my day off, as if you've listened to the show for very long. And so all Wednesday was really party focused. It was all cooking. It was all, which for me is kind of creative. And it's a good chance to just sort of practice the trust muscle. My mom is, she's an excellent baker. And so there's, it's not a competition, but, sometimes I just look to be really good at cooking. And it's not something that I do a lot of the time. So, just to have that chance to really dive in and it feels creative to me to bake cookies. That might not feel that way to anyone else, but I'm not so much of an artist. I'm not a drawer. That's not where I get my creative outlet, but I get it from doing different things. And one of those is, baking cookies. And it was just so much fun and just so cool to have the experience of doing it without having to take a day off of work to do it, to really get to do it because, I had time in my schedule. I got to plan that time. And that's what I always wanted. I didn't want those things to feel rushed. I used to actually outsource the making of the cookies to my mom. And I haven't had this party in a couple years because, there's a parade route in Denver that goes by certain buildings. And I didn't have access to have it at the party, at one of the buildings a couple years ago. And now that I'm back in the Four Seasons, or now that I'm in the Four Seasons, I'm back on the parade route. And so that's why I'm having it. But I haven't had it since I quit my corporate job, since I left my corporate job. And I used to outsource this to my mom. I'd be like, I don't have time, to make seriously like 200 cookies, I think. Can you help me out and can you do it? And she would volunteer to do it, and it's really quick and it's really easy for her. But there was just something about doing it myself and like getting to have that different experience that wasn't, in my business, that was just for fun, that's about, creating something to celebrate with friends and family that I love. And so it was just a really awesome week, to be able to get to do that. So I'm really excited about that. I'm excited about having the party. I'm excited about having tons of kids over and just having a great time. So, if you enjoy this podcast, you enjoy this episode, you enjoy the podcast at all, if you've enjoyed any of my books, maybe you already have the ebook of Manifest 10,000, I would love if you would go to manifest10kbook.com and pre-order the hard copy. It's not a hardback, but the paperback, the paperback of Manifest 10,000. My intention is to have 10,000 pre-orders of the book. So if you could help me out with that with one, that's awesome. Just go to manifest10kbook.com. And I always like to mention this. You're going to get a free book. So your book that you order on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, whatever, isn't going to come until May when the book is officially out in bookstores and available on those platforms. But what you will be able to do is get that copy in your hand in a couple weeks, because when you go to that site, you scroll down to the bottom, click on the big old box and put in, tell us where you bought it from and put in your receipt number. We're going to send you a copy right now so that you get to have the physical copy right now. And you can mark it up. You can highlight it. I know a lot of you have said to me, like, when is it coming out in print? Because I want to be able to highlight it and mark it up. I want to do all these things, really just hold it in your hands. And so you can do that early by pre-ordering it. And then when you get that book in May from your pre-order, just share it with a friend, give it to somebody that you think could benefit from the information. So I would really appreciate if you went to manifest10kbook.com and pre-ordered the book. All right. So let's talk about how did this whole, sometimes it's amazing to me, the evolution of this course, especially around this time of year, because this is sort of when I started thinking about actually writing the course down. So to think of the whole evolution, it's been 3 years. 3 years. It's just under 3 years if you're listening to this when it came out. It came out, I believe, the first day it was either February 22nd or February 27th, 2014. So I left my corporate job on November 1st, 2013. Crazy. It's been over 3 years since that. And when I left, I had never, I understood this sort of concept of a niche or this one thing, but I didn't really, I got the concept, but I didn't get it for me, because when I started studying, I studied something called resonance repatterning when I sort of started getting into this world of shifting thoughts and beliefs. And with that tool, you could do anything. Right? So anyone could walk in and be like, I feel stuck, I feel frustrated, I feel unhappy, I really want this to happen in my life, whatever it was. And with those tools, I could work with them. So I worked with kids as young as 3, all the way up to 67-year-olds, this whole gamut. I work with high school boys, I worked with high school girls, I worked with everything in between. And so when somebody would want to try and niche me, I just was I was very resistant. Even now I can feel myself as just kind of throwing my shoulders back, because I didn't want to pick a niche, because, I could help all these people. And looking back, I totally get why people wanted me to choose a niche and the benefit of that, but I just hadn't found it yet, right? And you could use this tool. I'd teach this tool, or I'd not teach the tool, but I would use the tool to shift a lot of things, and it evolved into my own practice. So my first book is actually called Stop and Change Directions, and it's my own practice of shifting thoughts and beliefs. I kind of morphed a lot of different stuff that I was studying into my own practice of how to shift my own thoughts and beliefs really quickly. So, and again, that would work with anyone. So I just knew I wanted to be a coach, and I knew I wanted to, I already got clear that leaving my job, I needed to leave my job in order to do that. Or I just couldn't find, I just didn't have the time and energy to devote to my business, that I wanted. And it was leaving me exhausted to work on it. And looking back, it was because I didn't quite know what I was doing. But so when I left my corporate job, I didn't really, know what kind of niche I was just going to be a law of attraction coach, right? That's just what I was going to do. And when I left my corporate job, I gave myself like the time to kind of take a break and I kind of sat on the couch and watched The Office for 2 weeks, because just the act of leaving was exhausting. It took a lot out of me. And also I think I'd been holding on to a lot of stuff, and just sort of powering through for a long time for the last couple months, because honestly, I probably would have changed jobs before, if I wasn't leaving to do my own thing, I would have changed jobs probably 6 months before. So anyway, I came out not knowing really what I was going to do. Like I had money to pay my basic bills, and yet I realized, money felt like it was flying out the window. And I had been working, I'd worked on my money mindset. Like if you've taken the Manifest 10K course, you've read some of the stories, like, manifesting money and creating money and having it flow into my life had become very easy. And yet I was watching my bank account, and while I understood, there were some things I would pay for, there was, the holidays, there was a trip I would take, all this stuff, it really felt like money was flowing out the window, and I did not love that feeling. And I knew enough, right, to know that it wasn't good. Like I just couldn't let that feeling keep happening. So one day I said, oh, I have this notebook. And in this notebook, I had outlined a money manifesting course. And you might have heard this story before, but I have a friend, and I love and adore her. And we were talking one night, and she was in a network marketing company, and she said, I just don't know who to follow up with and who not to. People tell me it's the money, I think it was like $350. And she's like, it's not that much money. So I don't know if I should keep following up with them and see if they have the money, or if I should just understand that they're telling me that because they don't want to join. And she's like, either's okay. I just wish I knew what to do. So I said, I don't even know where this idea, but this idea popped into my head because I was like, $350. You can manifest $350. I mean, so quickly and easily, right? And I could probably do it in a matter of days. And so I thought, I could just make a money manifesting course. So if it's really about the money, then they can create the money to get into the network marketing, and they can start making more money. And you could just give them the course. And I didn't know what I was I think I was maybe going to charge like $27 for it or something. I don't know what I was going to charge. I don't even think about really what I was going to charge. I was like, you can give them, introduce them to the course. It probably was $27 because I was doing a lot of products and trying to create a lot of things around that time, around, $27 and $9 and $47 and all those. There's some marketing things out there or sales strategies out there that will tell you, like have a $9 product and then a $20 product and a $30 product, and all these. And so that's kind of where I was. So I probably had in my head that it was going to be $27. And I said, I'll create it, and then you could give it out to them. And she was like, oh, cool. And we got off the phone, and I outlined the course, like literally laid on my bed and just wrote it all down like it just came to me. And it was all things that I'd done. It was all things that I do every day, in my daily life. Like everything I teach in that course and everything I'm going to talk to you about in these episodes of Manifest 10,000, it's everything I do on a daily basis. It's just become normal and ingrained. But at one time I had to practice it and I had to think about it and all of that. So I outlined it, And the coolest thing that happened was that, aligning with that, really something made me say, well, like, go check your bank account. And so I looked at all the money that I'd spent that year that wasn't investing in houses, but money to actually, invested in my bills and whatever else I was paying, my housing and all of the living, food and all that for me. And what I realized is that my real estate income already matched. It was already the same as what I had spent the year before. So I realized I was already financially independent. That had been an intention of mine. And I just like that inspiration and being in the vibration and being in the, thinking about that course and manifesting money, like that just little whisper hit me to go check this out, go see what it is. And so I did. So when I was, money felt like it was flowing out of my life, I said, you know what, I'm going to do this course and I'm going to write it. I'm going to do it as I write it because I'm going to create this course because people need this course. And I clearly needed the course in the moment, right? I needed to reset, right? It was different when there just automatically wasn't 2 paychecks a month coming in on the 1st and the 15th. Like, even though there was enough money, there was something that got triggered or didn't feel good and, with money. And so, I needed the course. And I think that is number one thing I want to highlight is if it's at all possible to teach something that you have definitely done, teach a process that you do in your life, or maybe you've done it over and over with your clients, awesome. But if you're starting out, like find something that you've mastered. So often people tell me, I want to teach this or I want to teach that, and they haven't done it or they don't have a lot of experience at it. Like, go where your experience is. All of those things, when I looked at that outline, there was like 30 things. All of those things were things that I had been doing for years and that had changed my life. So I think that's important. So, I started writing it and I started, creating the course, and I started doing it. Like, I did every single exercise, as I've done it many times. Again, it was already part of my life, but I do it as like step by step, just like I teach all of you in the course. And so, I did it as I wrote it. And what else I did was I had decided like, I'm going to be super successful in this course, and I didn't start by saying, I think this is important too, because it goes in terms of like how aligned you are to the outcome you want. And I always say, like, get clear in the vision and then, be led to that. Like, what I wanted was to have it, like, first and foremost, I wanted to get my money mindset back on track. And second is I wanted to provide a service to people that would be beneficial to them. And I wanted it, the third thing was that I wanted it to be a successful launch. I'd created a lot of products and I'd done a lot of different things. And, I had Loving Yourself University where I tried to do these semester courses and all this stuff. And, I'd get 1 or 2 people to sign up. I never had even, I had done different events and different workshops and I'd get 2 people in the room and things like that. So I never felt like I had a successful launch of anything. And so that was my third thing that I wanted. So I was really clear on that. So as I was creating the course, I was also scripting the experience I wanted to have when the course was out. So I was scripting, people are manifesting so much money. People are loving the course, getting emails where people are just enjoying it. There's 170 people in the course. Like, I would just write. So before I would sit down and I would write the course every day, I would script, the experience of having a successful course, not just the launch, but the course being successful, people being successful in the course. And I would just script that before I would sit down and I'd start writing for the day, and then I go home and I do whatever assignment I wrote. And so that was really important because I was always focused on the experience I wanted to have from creating that product, which for me was like, get my money mindset back on track, serve people who needed to get their money mindset on track, and have a successful launch. And that was really the vision I was walking towards. So I would follow inspiration and I would do different things. And I just kept moving along. And so, and then when it came time to decide, okay, what am I going to charge for this course? I I thought about $97. I thought about, I don't know, I probably thought about a lot of things, but really I didn't think about it for very long, because when you're thinking, often you're trying to figure something out and you're not following that path that's laid out in front of you. And so I didn't think about it very long. I just like, what am I going to call, what am I going to charge for this? And I heard the whisper that was like, pay after you manifest. And to me, for a money manifesting course, that was everything, because it meant if I could teach you how to manifest money, then you paid me, right? And so I went with that. That's what felt good. So, that's another business, like go with what feels good. If you resist it, there's a lot of people who couldn't go with pay after you manifest. And I know this because I talk to them. And when I'd say, oh, it's pay after you manifest, like, oh, their first question would be, well, how do you know if you're going to get paid? What if someone doesn't pay you? Right? And if those are your automatic thoughts and your fears, that's not the way for you to do a program. And so but for me, it was like, I'm cool. The universe takes care of me. I'll be fine. I trust people. I trust the process, right? This is the right way for me to do it. There's no right and wrong, but it's the right way for me. It's the way that feels good. I'm good. And I had to really, part of it, I was already working my money mindset, but I even had to get better, and I had to get really strong in that trust in order to be able to offer it that way. So it's like really about following your feel good. And I know launching it pay after you manifest really had an impact on, I was new. I was new on the scene as a coach. Not a lot of people knew about me. Some people did, but when I gave that option, like you can pay after you manifest, like people signed up and people said yes, right? And it was such a good energy, and I just stuck with it. I said, this is going to happen and everything like that. And the other thing is I just always believed it would be successful. From the moment I said, that was my third thing, is to have a successful launch. I knew it. So the thing about this course is that I had scripted, just sort of being in the flow, that there's 170 people in the course. Now, I didn't have 170 people on my list at that time. I don't even, I guess I could come up with 170 people that I knew, but most of them would not be interested in a money manifesting course. But I just wrote that down, and then I started seeing that, and I started just believing that would happen. And sure enough, about 4 days before maybe 5 before the course was supposed to start, I had 7 people registered. And I just kept believing, and I just kept stepping into it. And I just kept doing the things that you would do for a launch. I was reaching out to people saying, hey, I'm just starting this course. It's pay after you manifest. If it helped your people, send it out. And I just kept moving forward, believing that it was going to be successful, that there were going to be 170 people in it. When it actually, started, there were over 200 people in it. And I remember just having everything that I had scripted come true. Like there's people after people after people signing up and coming in. And I remember, I couldn't even keep up really. Like I was trying to get them added to the Facebook group and all that. And that really came from that belief. And so it's super important. Like if you are going to launch something, like get clear about what it is that you want to experience, not the outcome. Right? It's easy to say, I want to make $10,000, so I'm going to sell 100 copies at $100, right? But what's the outcome? What does it feel like? What's the experience that you want to have, right? So I did that, did it pay after you manifest, and then about 7 or 8 months into it, I just, I was stepping into my bigger self. You might have heard this story before, but I was really stepping into what does a $500,000 business owner look like? And I got this, hunch to call the author incubator to get in contact with them. And, I like that hunch, I think started happening on a Monday. I got on to schedule a call Thursday. There was an opening on Friday. I scheduled on Friday and I started the next Monday. And that was, supposed to be the book. There was a lead in to Manifest 10K, which was at that time called Money, 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 right? And, I wrote that book and it was a good experience and it was everything. And yet there was still so much more for me to learn about being a coach. And so I released the book and I started, I remember I released the book and I had like opened some enrollments of it. And then I was like trying to do it as an open enrollment. Once the initial success of that course had happened, I didn't know how to keep it going forward. And I didn't know how to keep introducing people, like keep finding new people for it. And so I remember I hired my mentor after I wrote the book, and her first thing she told me is, I want you to get 100 people into this course a month. And I was like, what? I only had like 300 the whole last year or the 7 months. She's like 100. And I came home and it was like when I got home, it was already like a week into January. And I managed to get 100 people in the course. And I did it again in February and I did it again in March. And, I just kept meeting that goal. And what that did for me is it kept giving me new people to coach. I used to included with the course used to be a phone call where I'd answer questions. So I got really good at knowing the questions. I got really good at knowing my person. And sometimes I think when I see people, struggle, sometimes it's because they just haven't done enough. Like when you can get in and you can coach as much as possible, that's super helpful. And so it was super helpful in, just keeping going and keeping going. And pretty soon what happened is I said, you know what, I think this course needs to be, it was just a couple months in. It feels like a lot longer looking back. I'm like, that was a year. And then I'm thinking, no, that was like 4 months. So after I kept getting those hundreds of people in and seeing what was going on and coaching and coaching and coaching, like I realized I think this course should be called Manifest 10,000 because that number, and there was a lot of reasons that went into that number. And one of them was based on, if 100 people, I think this is the number, 100 people do, $10,000, that's $1 million. So I wanted to have $1 million, like people be going for a collective $1 million. But the other reasons, that were more practical was that I saw 10,000 was a really, like most people's brain could get wrapped around that. I watched most people's brain, not be able to handle when they were like, I'm going to manifest $1 million in 90 days. And so I changed the course and I went back in and I changed it to be Manifest 10K, which made it better because I went back and I knew the things that people missed or skipped. So I separated those assignments out, and did other things and made that really good. And then I did it as Manifest 10K for about the next 6 months. And it lost its luster. It became very it felt hard. It felt like I didn't want to do it anymore. And so I closed the doors on it. And that was really it didn't, I fully let it go. I never intended to open it back up. And, then 4 months later, I was like 5 months later, I could sort of see everything had cleared and I could see what it was that was frustrating me as the person who was putting on the course and how could I fix that to make it easier? Because I started to see that course was really powerful and really step back into it in a different perspective, but I had to take a break from it. I had to sort of put it down for a minute to be able to see clearly. And I think that's an important lesson. And it was very intuitive to, just shut it down and, take a break and be okay with that, And then when I opened it back up 6 months later, it was so much better. I did rewrite it a little bit, not a lot, but who I was better. I knew how to better run it so that it was really easy and it felt really good. And it just gets better and better. And then that was the moment where I said, I need to write the book. I'm ready to write Manifest 10,000, the book. It was actually going to be called Manifest 10K. But one of the things that you do is you learn to search Amazon or, you look for keywords on Google. And as a business owner and I searched Amazon and Manifest 10,000 was actually searched on Amazon. So that's why we called it Manifest 10,000. And so that's sort of the process. And now I feel like I'm stepping into it in an even bigger way, really even owning this Manifest 10,000 process and sharing it with you all. And I'm really excited because the book is coming out in bookstores. And so just that whole evolution of, keeping going and keeping, stepping into your, keep stepping into it and keep, listening to your intuition, I think are all super valuable things when it comes to your business. And so I just wanted to share that with you, and I hope it was helpful. We are just about at the end of our time, so I wanted to share a quick fun story. I had a friend the other day, and she said, I didn't really believe in your way of thinking. She sends me a text. She said, but I just read the first 2 chapters of Manifest 10,000. And she goes, and then I went and I cleaned my room and I found $100. And she goes, I get it now. And so I like to share, like I said, I think I said this on the last episode, I like to share the big manifestations like Carnes, that's $14,300. And I like to share when it's $100 or $20 because they're all equally important and it's all building on each other. So once $100 shows up into your life easy and you get it and you get that, you increase that belief that we've talked about, choosing your beliefs. Hey, money shows up easy. You can keep doing that over and over and it gets bigger and better. So I just wanted to share that with you. And before I go, I want to give you this week's mantra, which is I follow my intuition. I follow my intuition. Practice it as you will, and remember, abundance flows through you. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for joining us on the Happy Ever After show, where you don't need a genie lamp to get your wishes granted. Now that you're inspired and ready to take action, get yourself on the path to your happy ever after by scheduling a complimentary strategy session at createmyhappyeverafter.com.